Good day, everyone. I am Takis Villafranca, and today, me and my groupmates will be presenting our project entitled Analyzing Factors That Affect Airline Ticket Prices for our course ITS132 Laboratory. So, here we have our table of contents, which contains the following: our business understanding, data preparation, and modeling and evaluation of our project. So, for our business understanding, since airline ticket prices are often influenced by many factors such as route, travel time, carrier, and competition, our main objective is to identify the most influential factors using real world US airline fare data. So, in this project, we aim to answer the following questions. Number one, what are the variables most significantly impacted by airfare? Number two, are low-cost carriers consistently cheaper? And lastly, number three, how does competition affect pricing?
For this project, we used the airline market fare prediction dataset from Kaggle, chosen for its reliable and detailed flight data from the US Department of Transportation. It includes 26 columns covering factors like fare, distance, passenger count, airline carrier, and market competition, all useful for analyzing airline pricing behavior. Next, we head on to the dataset description. The dataset summarizes airline activity between city pairs in late 2021. It includes categorical features like carrier and airport IDs, and numerical ones like fare, distance, and market share. Coded columns will be treated as categories while measurable values like box and circuity will serve as our analysis metric. Lastly is the data familiarization. We began with basic EDA using Jupyter Notebook, checking structure, types, and missing values. Visualizations like histograms, box plots, and bar charts revealed patterns in fares based on flight type, airline, competition, and distance. These insights laid the foundation for deeper analysis.
Upon initial inspection of the raw dataset, we identified missing values in critical features required for modeling airfare prices. Specifically, rows with null values in average fare, non-stop miles, carrier, and market share were excluded to prevent skewed analysis. We retained identifier fields only if they were complete and exhibited consistency across records. Duplicate entries were removed to avoid redundancy and potential bias in model training. To address outliers in average fare, we applied the IQR method. Records with values falling outside 1.5 times the IQR were either removed or flagged, depending on the severity and context of the outlier. Additionally, we conducted a comprehensive data type audit, ensuring that all features were appropriately cast. Categorical variables were encoded, and numerical fields were standardized for downstream preprocessing. These steps, these pre-processing steps ensure that the dataset was clean, reliable, and optimized for training predictive models to identify key drivers of airfare pricing. Following the data cleaning process, Figure 3.1 displays two overlaid histograms representing the distribution of average fare before and after cleaning. Both distributions are plotted on the same scale to allow for a direct visual comparison. In the original distribution, we observe a pronounced right skew with a long tail extending beyond $1,000, while the majority of pairs fall within the $200 to $400 range. The presence of numerous high-value fares creates a widespread and potential distortion in the dataset. In contrast, the clean distribution appears significantly more compact and centralized. The long tail has been largely reduced, indicating the effective removal of outliers in extreme values through IQR-based filtering. Trace transformation confirms that the clean dataset now offers a more accurate representation of typical airfare values, which is essential for building robust and generalizable predictive models. After the data cleaning process, the dataset retains key features essential for modeling and analysis, such as average fare, non-stop miles, carrier, packs, and other market level and frequency related attributes. Cleaning procedures ensure data completeness and integrity by removing records with missing or inconsistent values. Additionally, outlier filtering help align fare values within a more realistic and expected range. As a result, average fare now reflects a more stable and interpretable variable, while supporting features like nonstop miles and carrier are consistently formatted and structured, ensuring the dataset is ready for feature engineering and model development. As part of the feature engineering process, we created new variables shown in Table 3.1 to better capture the patterns and relationships that affect airfare pricing. These engineered features were designed to align closely with our business questions and improve model performance. For example, fare per mile was calculated by dividing the average fare the flight distance. This helps us compare prices fairly across routes of different lengths. Similarly, fare per pax gives the fare per passenger, helping us understand pricing relative to passenger volume. We used fare edge circuitry to adjust the fare based on how direct or indirect a route is. It is useful for spotting inefficient and more expensive routes. Load factor proxy measures how full flights are by dividing the number of passengers carried by a specific airline by the total passengers on the route. Tax share shows how much of the route's passenger traffic is controlled by one airline, and it is useful for identifying market dominance. Is round trip and is low cost carrier are binary variables that capture whether the flight is a round trip and whether a budget airline is present on the route. To understand market dynamics, we created market concentration using a scaled version of the Harfindal-Hirschman index, which shows the level of competition on each route. Slot constraint indicates whether airport capacity limits affect the route, which can influence pricing. Lastly, non-competitors counts how many different airlines operate on the same route. These engineered features gives us better tools to explore our key questions, such as how airline competition, carrier type, and route characteristic impact airfare pricing.
So here's our model section. We treat this as a regression problem because airfare is a continuous value. To predict it, we use three machine learning models. First, the linear regression. It is easy to understand and we use it as our starting point. Then the random forest. It combines a lot of small decision trees to find complex pattern. Then lastly, the gradient boosting. It builds trees step by step, learning from past mistakes. To evaluate the models, we use the following. The R square score, it tells us how well the model explains airfare changes. Then the mean absolute error tells the average prediction error. Then the mean square error, it's like the mean absolute error, but it gives more weight to big mistakes. So here are our values. So here are the results. So for the linear regression, it explains some of the data patterns, but it's not really that accurate. While the random forest, as shown from the results, it performs the best with its high accurate predictions and minimal error. Then the gradient boosting, it is better than linear regression, but not as good as random forest. So in the end, the random forest is the one that is more reliable in predictions and it is the best for our study. But mainly we use linear regression to us to understand which factors affect airfare because it is, again as mentioned, it is easy to understand and it shows if a feature increases or lowers the price. Then we use random forest and gradient boosting to back up our findings to confirm the important features and to give better accuracy. To the question what factors affect airfare, we look at the coefficients from the linear regression model. A positive coefficient means that the value of that feature increases and the airfare also increases. A negative coefficient means that the feature increases but the airfare tends to decrease. In the chart, you will see that fare per mile and had the largest impact, and its coefficient is negative. This means that when the fare per mile increases, the total airfare actually decreases, likely because shorter routes, which have a higher Higher per miles rates are generally cheaper overall and more competitive. Another key factor is the slot constraint, which had a positive effect, meaning flights at a busy airport with limited landing spots tend to have higher fares due to limited capacity and higher demand. Random forest and gradient boosting models uses the feature importance scores to show which factors matter the most. Both models identify fair adjusted circuitry, which measures how direct or complex a route is, as the most important feature. They also rank fare per mile and fare per pax as the top features, showing that pricing per mile and per passenger also plays a key role in determining airfare. For the second question, how consistent are low-cost carrier in offering lower fares? The results were quite unexpected because based on our data, low-cost carriers had a higher average fare of 221.27 compared to non-low-cost carriers, which are 203.63. The linear regression model confirmed this by showing that being low-cost carrier increased the predicted fare by about 8 units, even after adjusting the distance and other factors. The random forest and decision tree showed that the is low cost carrier feature have a low feature importance as seen on this chart, then the fare per mile and load factor proxy have a higher importance. This means that being labeled as low cost doesn't always mean that it's cheaper. There are other factors that plays a bigger role in the airfare pricing. So for the third question, how does the level of competition affect air prices? All of the three models shows a consistent pattern or show similar results. The linear regression model finds that the number of competitors have a negative coefficient of -6.90, meaning more competitors leads to lower fares. On the other hand, market concentration had a positive coefficient of +4.63, showing that when few airlines dominate the route, prices tend to go up.
Our analysis of feature importance showed us clearly that the most significant factor driving fare changes is market concentration, a measure of how much market share is held by the largest firms. In a random forest model, the market concentration had an importance score of 0.93, and in the gradient boosting model, it was 0.86. As you can see from the charts on the right, this feature overwhelmingly dominates. In contrast, the number of competitors had a much smaller impact, with importance scores of just 0.07 and 0.14, respectively. The interpretation here is that the market structure is the primary driver. When competition is low and market concentration is high, meaning one or two airlines dominate a route, fares are significantly higher. This shows us that a lack of competition gives carriers greater power to set prices. Now, let's step back and look at how our predictive models performed overall. This table gives a clear recap of our model comparison. We started with linear regression as our baseline. It achieved an R-squared score of 0.58 on the test data, meaning it could explain about 58% of the variance in airfare. While interpretable, its predictive power was limited. Next, the gradient boosting model showed a significant improvement with an R-squared of 0.81. This is a strong result, but we did note a potential risk of overfitting given its sequential nature. Finally, the random forest was the clear winner. It achieved an outstanding R-squared of 0.97, explaining nearly all of the variability in fares. Its mean absolute error was just $4.24, which is exceptionally low. This demonstrates that the random forest model was not only highly accurate, but also generalized well to new data, making it the best model overall for our analysis. So, what are the key insights we gained from evaluating these models? We can summarize the answers to our three core business questions. For business question 1, which factors influence average airfare? We found that all models agreed on a few key predictors. Features like fare per mile, fare ADJ circuitry, and market concentration were consistently ranked as most predictive. Specifically, our powerful ensemble models highlighted that route complexity or circuitry was the single most important factor. For business question 2, are low cost carriers consistently cheaper? The answer was a definitive no. In our dataset, LCCs actually had a slightly higher average fares. Our regression analysis confirmed this, showing that the presence of an LCC was associated with a predicted fare increase of about 8 units. The is low cost carrier feature had a very low predictive power across all models, indicating that the low cost label is not a reliable indicator of price. And finally, as we just discussed for business question 3, how does competition affect fare? The relationship is clear. More competitors lead to lower fares, while higher market concentration leads to higher fares. This was strongly supported by both our linear regression coefficients and the feature importance from our ensemble models. To conclude, let's summarize our final evaluation. Our best model was the random forest regressor due to its highest predictive accuracy with an R squared of 0.97 and its extremely low error rate. This entire analysis has yielded us three key takeaways. First, fair prices are most influenced by route specific factors like route complexity, cost per mile, and market dynamics, not just simple labels. Second, the term low cost carrier is not a guarantee of cheaper fares. Other factors are much more significant in determining price. And third, market competition has a clear and direct downward effect on pricing. Less competition unequivocally leads to higher ticket prices. The project impacts of these findings is very significant. For airlines, these insights can help in setting fair, data driven prices. And for travelers, it empowers them to make smarter booking decisions by understanding what truly drives cost. And for policymakers, this analysis provides a clear basis for regulating airline competition to ensure a fair market for consumers. Thank you for listening to our presentation.